Hey there, Scorpio. So, I've already shuffled the cards as usual, laid them out for your reading. Still using the Aleister Crowley Thoth deck for the overall spread itself, but I'm also beginning to incorporate the rune cards and the I Ching. So, I was a little inspired by the recent astrology podcast episode with Benabel Wen, where she discussed the I Ching and its history and its usage and a little bit of its astrological correspondence. I don't know a whole lot about it. I've been very fascinated by the I Ching for a long time. I think many of us in the esoteric sphere can attest to that. But basically, I did the coin toss method to build up a hexagram for you. And what you actually got is hexagram number 24. And this is the turning point, or the return. And it's got some interesting imagery. So it's built up of two different trigrams, two sets of 3 lines. This bottom set right here represents the arousing or thunder. And this set of 3 right here with the broken lines represents earth. This is all yin. The broken lines are like the yin energy. And before I go into the interpretation that's listed on the particular website that I'm using for the I Ching, right off the bat, that's working with, deep underground energy. I was thinking about like earthquakes and stuff, just with the imagery of those 2 trigrams with the thunder under the earth. Like it's this powerful, kinetic, tectonic energy that you're working with. And reading about the hexagram, it's talking about the solstice points, like these periods of transition of this energy kind of coming up from the bottom. If you think about the southern solstice, it's like when the sun reaches this low point and begins to turn back up northward. Like it goes down, then it's the winter solstice, it's at the lowest of the low, and then it goes back up. And then obviously the opposite is the case for the northern solstice. But it's these periods of change, of transition, of moving into a new space, a new sphere. And this is actually the second time that I'm attempting your reading, and I did completely different spread, completely different cards, and that theme of transformation still came up in your initial reading. Actually, one of like the dominant images that I was seeing in your reading was like a piece of coal or a piece of wood on fire, and like specifically this idea of burning the carbon away, of like transforming the material into a less dense, more usable form as energy. That fire is like raw energy basically. So yeah, I'm going to read about hexagram number 24 for you. It's called Fu, Return, or the Turning Point. Says, return, success, going out and coming in without error. Friends come without blame, to and fro goes the way. On the 7th day comes return, it furthers one to have somewhere to go. In the image itself, it says, thunder within the earth, the image of the turning point. Thus the kings of antiquity closed the passes at the time of solstice. Merchants and strangers did not go about, and the ruler did not travel through the provinces. So that alone is kind of like that space of retreat, or that space of consolidating as you're passing through something, like going through a passage, going through the transition, which is also relevant to the rune card that we have here, Urus, which is very much a passageway type of card. The rune itself is associated with the ox, the animal, the ox, but the energy that it's conveying is this sort of resolution, the sort of strength to go through this transition, this transformation, this change. Like I'm getting very death card energy. And it's interesting because the death card didn't show up in your spread today. But nonetheless, I feel like it's kind of in the undercurrent. This sort of distillation. I keep thinking distillation every time I see this card, but it's actually your significator today, the Five of Cups in reverse. And that's the first decan of Scorpio, so that's your sign. You're showing up for your own reading. When we're in a state of transformation, or we're moving into a new cycle in our lives, there is an element of sacrifice, an element of letting something go, of leaving something behind, whether it's like an aspect of ourselves or a relationship or a career, maybe a living situation, you know, whatever it is. In order to move in to a new state of being, the material world has to sort of take the appropriate shape. You know, there needs to be space for the new energy to come in. So that's what this card is kind of conveying to me right now, is this maybe state of being that you're in, of leaving something behind, of shedding a layer of some sort, of burning some carbon away, if we're going back to that earlier image. Covering you, we have the Princess of Discs. So this could be somebody else in your life. It could be a Taurus, a Virgo, or a Capricorn, or just somebody who, since it is reversed, I'm thinking somebody who, through recklessness, maybe sort of shows you what it's like to kind of I'm seeing like kind of walking in the way of like I don't know how to explain this, like the words aren't coming out right. It's like this person or this energy is like a reckless, like chaotic force, like they're doing all the wrong things. They're wasting their resources, or they're kind of destructive in their lifestyle and their habits. And it's like through seeing this unfold, it's presenting you with the antithesis of that. Like the opposite of that is somebody who is very pragmatic, very methodical, is building up sustainably, like building up a life for themselves that's stable and secure and provides all the resources that they need for whatever they need, for whatever their purposes or aims. Yeah, it's very much this idea of like working with opposites, like seeing one thing, and through seeing that thing, you're being made aware of its contrary nature. Crossing you, we have the Ace of Cups, which is that cardinal point of Cancer. That's the northern solstice point, which is, you know, that initiation into, I heard initiation into the rainy season. Like once you pass through this transition point, whatever this is, whatever this transformation, whatever the sacrifice is that you're experiencing, going through that is going to, I heard, guide you into the garden, like guide you into a space that's fertile and growing and conducive for the work. You know, it's interesting with you being a water sign, Scorpio. This Ace of Cups is almost like taking the shape of like what the Ace of Wands would typically take for general purposes. But this Ace of Cups, it's almost like you're seizing the energy that you have within you. This thunder that's rumbling beneath the earth, like connecting with that inner power and drawing it up and using it to invigorate your passage forward. Drawing on like inner wells of confidence, or tapping into your creative approach. At the base of the reading, we have the Knight of Discs. Yeah, there's this emphasis on your outward reality and how it's mirroring or reflecting your inner state back to you. And with this Knight of Discs at the base of your reading, it's like the whole crux of the problem, the whole crux of the story that you're being written into. Weird turn of words. Is consolidating your resources, is utilizing your power to shape and to create a physical reality that is different. And it kind of starts off as like this deep rumbling under the surface, like it's not very evident until it kind of bursts forward. It's very initially very slow but very powerful energy that's kind of moving through your life. It's like a current that you're starting to listen to feel underneath your feet, to feel at the base of your spine. It's like this whisper that just slowly grows louder and louder and louder until everything else is kind of being swept away with it. Like this, I'm seeing like lava under the ground, carving out tunnels and pulling and melting the solid rock that's above it as it moves and slowly making its way up to the surface where it creates a new world. Like the volcano, like an island volcano creating more land as it makes contact with the ocean. Behind you, we have the sun reversed. It's interesting. I was getting this image of like the sun setting, but as it goes beneath the horizon, it's like it's invigorating the underworld. It's the arousing thunder that's under the earth, if we're going back to the hexagram that we got earlier. Like it's vivifying something within you, an idea or a resolution that you've made. And it's not visible on the surface, it's not visible to the people around you necessarily, but it's happening, and it's catalyzing a shift that's going to be extroverting itself. And I'm looking at the crowning card for you right here, which is Adjustment, or Justice in other decks. This is Libra, and what I was hearing as I was looking at it was like ensuring appropriate timing. Like you're being very careful as this energy is kind of building up. It's like you're taking stock. You're like carving a path like carving these two this is, the images are just like so abstract. I don't even know how to begin to bring them down. And maybe that's part of the process for you, is like you're trying to condense these really abstract feelings and ideas into something that makes sense, into something that's usable, workable. You know, going back to this transformation energy, like this alchemizing, if we're thinking about the fire, how it's turning the base wood into some more subtle form of energy, like this feels like the opposite of that. It's like the condensing, it's the hardening of the magma, the cooling and the turning of fire into rock. Like you're trying to guide this process and utilize the raw energy that's coming forward, the manifestation energy, or the momentum behind a certain opportunity, and you're trying to tap into it and like literally tap into it. Like I'm seeing somebody at like a bar or something filling up their glass of beer at the tap, but it's like what's being emphasized with that image is the piping, like the way that the energy, the way that the beer, the drink is being directed, and like the path that it's taking, like the thought and the care that went into shaping that pathway within its relation to the other pathways around it. Like kind of carving out your own space in some way. Before you, we have the Two of Swords, which in this deck is peace. Got some more Libra energy, because that's the first decan of Libra. Obviously, we have the Libra equinox on September 22nd of this year, and it's going to be happening at the same time, or on the same day that Venus moves into Scorpio, I believe. Yeah. So Venus is going to be moving into your sign at the same time as the Western Libra equinox occurs. And I feel that this could be like a turning point in the energy, like a more supportive or conducive environment for you to manifest. Like I'm looking back at this Libra Justice card, adjustment, and how the idea that came to mind when I was looking at it was like making sure the timing is right. Like maybe this is the window of time where it'll be more conducive for you to externalize the abstract energy that you've been playing with and shaping. Like you've been at the forge, and it's like when Libra crosses into Scorpio, it's like the smith, the blacksmith, pulls the red hot iron out of the furnace and begins to shape it. You know, giving it shape, giving it form. For the energy around you, you have the Eight of Wands right here, which is the first decan of Sagittarius. And in this deck, it's called Swiftness. So it's like working with this raw energy that's kind of moving quickly, moving in every direction, it sort of feels like. Because when you think of the eight, you have the four cardinal directions, and then you have the cross quarters. Or you could say it's, you know, north, south, east, west, and northwest, southwest, you know, northeast, southeast, that sort of thing. And I feel like for you, the approach is to like I'm seeing you gathering the energy that's trying to expand and spread out in all these directions, and you're pulling it back together and shaping it into a singular focal point. You're condensing all this energy around a single object or a single idea, a single purpose. You know, another interpretation of the Eight of Wands is like information coming in. Like different trains of thought or habit, different passions, different people's ideas maybe kind of coming into play, and it's like you're gathering them, consolidating. Like I'm just, again, this idea of consolidating, of gathering, you know, stripping away the unnecessary raw material and condensing the pure matter, like melting down the metal and taking out the impurities so that it's like pure silver, pure steel, pure gold, whatever it is that you're working with. For the people around you, we have the Knight of Wands. Interesting. So what I immediately saw as I pulled that card up was this blacksmith, you know, working the forge, working with whatever it is that they're creating, and somebody comes into the forge and is not like screaming, but like kind of speaking very quickly, trying to convey a message that's really important. Like there's a wave coming, there's something big coming, a storm maybe. I was hearing thunder in the distance, or probably just an airplane. Yesterday when I was trying to do your initial reading, like as I was connecting with your energy, there was a storm moving in and I was hearing the thunder and everything. So this idea of like the faraway rumblings moving closer, you know, this thunder under the earth and how it's slowly kind of making its way to the surface. Like maybe it's a deadline. There's a certain moment in time when the momentum is going to carry you along, and I feel like you're preparing for that. You're preparing for that momentum to catch up with you. You want to make sure that you're in a state of readiness, in a state of preparedness to the extent that you can kind of shape the momentum in your own way. And this person is not necessarily warning you, but maybe is kind of like, I'm seeing the bellows. Is that what they're called? They're like the little wind channels that the blacksmiths use. They like squeeze them and it pushes air out of the end. Like they're that person. They're stoking the fire. They're encouraging you maybe in some way, or they're providing some form of motivation, invigorating the passion behind your project. Maybe even, I'm hearing, donating their energy in some way to help you. And that could be an aspect of this Two of Swords right here. Like, I was looking at these cards and I was hearing like crossing swords. Like maybe there's an element of exchange taking place that's providing embellishment to the project, is providing greater articulation, more detail, more like crystallization further down the tree. I don't know how to convey this energy. I'm hoping that you kind of understand what I'm saying. Or it's like if you think of a fractal and how it just like continues to branch and gain further and further complexity the further down that you follow it, and you have like these repeating elements, whatever. But it's like this person is providing the additional complexity needed to like create like beautiful designs, or like add new iridescent colors or shapes. Like some, it's in I keep wanting to say embellishing. It's not quite the word that I'm connecting with. Hopefully that makes sense. Maybe we'll come back to that. But for your hopes and fears, we have the Hierophant card right here. He's reversed. Typically the Hierophant is associated with Taurus. But it's like this interesting. So that wave that's coming in, whatever that wave is, whatever that tide is, I feel like this Hierophant is like seated on top of it. Like they're riding the wave and they're watching you as the wave is approaching. Like waiting for you to fail, waiting for you to succeed. I feel like whatever this is, it's sort of like a motivating factor for you. Like you want to show this person that you're capable of this, whatever this is, and that you're not going to just be swept away by this wave and caught unawares and flounder and drown or whatever. It's like this person sort of upholds an old idea or an old image of you that isn't relevant anymore. And you're trying to express that to this person. You're trying to prove yourself to this person. And maybe not necessarily prove yourself to them. They're just motivating you to prove it to yourself. It's like maybe they don't believe that you're capable of this, but you know you are. And they're gonna see it. Like there's no room for error was a phrase that came up in your reading yesterday. Like you're being so very careful and focused about this transformation that you're undergoing, about this project that you're working on, and you're not leaving any room for floundering, for making mistakes. And maybe that's what this Knight of Wands is. It's kind of like that person that's cutting off the unnecessary bits. Like if you're writing a book, they're like helping you condense it or revise it, edit it, cutting out the unnecessary mistakes and additions and shortening as necessary so that it's watertight. There's no space for this Hierophant, whether it's an actual person or just like an aspect of your own psyche. There's no room for that archetype to point out flaws, because there won't be any. It'll be so delicately refined, of the utmost purity. For the final outcome, we have the Five of Wands reversed. In this deck, it's called Strife. That's the first decan of fixed fire, Leo. Just maybe look to where that is in your particular chart. I believe for you, Scorpio, Leo should be your 10th house. And this is like the overcoming. This is the mastery. This is the project having been completed and you proving your worth and overcoming the obstacles. Like I'm hearing they can't argue with you because you did the research, you did the work, you covered your bases, you documented the process, I'm hearing like you signed the documents, like it's in writing or it's in stone, like there's something immobile, immutable about what you've created. About what you've become. And now it's sort of like a solidification of the solar principle of the soul as it is now. Like after this transformation that you've gone through, you're able to solidify and consolidate yourself into something that draws from the past, certainly, but is like diamond crusted is what I'm hearing. Like there's no penetrating, because everything soft and vulnerable has been stripped away, has been burned away, and all that remains is the pure, unbreakable diamond within. And certainly in this new cycle you can embellish around this diamond, but at the heart, that invulnerable principle that you've cultivated within yourself is still going to be there no matter how you dress it up moving forward. And it was hard won, but worth every second, every moment of toiling over it. All right. I think that's it for your reading today. The cards just kind of went meep. It's always an odd experience, but at least I know when the time's up. So I'm hoping that this reading finds you well and offers you some peace of mind, or mirrors back whatever experience you're having in a way that helps you understand it and understand why it's necessary, understand its purpose, maybe help you find your purpose, or provide some confirmation one way or the other. But yeah, Scorpio, you're working with some really powerful energy right now. And like the good momentum is coming, so just keep at it. Don't lose sight of the end goal. Don't lose sight of the light at the end of the tunnel. You know, you're passing through the oppressive environment, and you're going to come out the other side even stronger than you were before. So yeah, wish you well.